Committee. This is the meeting of Wednesday, April 24th, 2024 at 6:31 p.m. and we are at the Shepherd Hill Regional High School. We will get up to do the Pledge of Allegiance. Flag. Okay. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And we'll take a moment of silence. Okay, thank you, everyone. As we move to the consent agenda items, I was asked to take F out of the consent agenda items, which is the overnight field trip to Washington, D.C. We'll bring that up in new business if we're able to. I know Principal Manette is not here tonight, so I don't think we may need to just table that until we are able to, if there's questions. So looking at consent agenda items A, B, C, D, E, and G, does anyone else have anything to take out? B?
I did not review that meeting quite yet, so I can't. I mean, you guys can do it separately, but I was going to abstain from that one.
Okay. Do you want to take it out or do you want to abstain?
Well, if I abstain, I have to abstain from everything, right?
Oh, correct. Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah. So we'll just take it out and we'll just do it at the next meeting.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So going forward with A, C, D, E, and G, I'd entertain a motion to accept the consent agenda items as listed.
So moved.
So moved. Okay. And is there a second?
Second.
Second by Maureen.
Who's the original? Okay.
Caitlin. Okay. All those in favor? Okay. No one opposed. Okay. So we're all set. All right. Moving on to communications. Do any of our members have any communications? No? Okay. Thank you. Going to the student representative report. Ms. Sophia, do you have anything for us?
I do.
Great.
So, over April vacation, a lot of our students from Shepherd Hill just had the opportunity to go on the foreign language trip this year. And they went to Switzerland, and they got to see the... Do you want me to lead more into it?
Maybe. I
Okay,
couldn't hear you. Sorry.
It's okay.
You can put a little closer.
Oh, true. Well, I was scared to move it.
Tilt it up a little bit, yeah?
There we go. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. So they just went to the Swiss Alps, I believe. They got to see the mountains and its glory. And they also went to Italy. They went to a bunch of different areas. I think they went to Rome, Venice, Pisa, some other cities and places that they got to understand more about and get to enjoy. Also, before April vacation, our varsity baseball team got to play one of their scrimmage games, I think, at Polar Park. And that was a super awesome opportunity for our school's team, and I think they really enjoyed it. And I think the girls' varsity softball just won their game yesterday. I think it was 3-1. It was something similar, but some upcoming events I have is that AP exams are starting in 2 weeks, I think. So a lot of our students that are in AP classes have been preparing for that, myself included. Our school's drama club is putting on a production of Clue this Friday and Saturday. There should be a link of tickets online on the district website or in the daily announcements. So if students want to forward that to their parents, they can get more information from that. On May 10th and 11th, the Shepherd Hill Music Department is putting on their production of Mamma Mia. There should be a link on the district website or on shepherdhillchorus.com if you want to take a look at that and get to see some of our talent here. And the last thing I have is that we have our art show coming up. I think it's next week on Wednesday? Friday. I meant
5
Friday.
to 7, I think, right?
5 to 7, I think, yeah, on Friday. And that concludes my student report.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to our superintendent report.
Madam Chair and School Committee, I do have a couple of items to report on this evening. First, I'd like to report that the week leading up to the school vacation week was marked by an intense series of meetings for the school committee. as you recall, because you were there. You embarked on an evening schedule, dedicated time and effort to fiscal year 2025 discussions. You met with the Town of Dudley and Town of Charlton Boards of Selectmen, Finance Committee, Finance Appropriations, and Advisory Committees. During these meetings, attention was given to release Massachusetts House numbers pertaining to fiscal year 2025. These discussions weren't merely routine, they represented a concerted effort to utilize the most favorable numbers in the House budget to guide the Dudley Charlton Regional School District through the upcoming fiscal year. I am convinced that the collective efforts of all involved have resulted in the establishment of a solidified FY25 plan for the Dudley Charlton Regional School District. I extend my heartfelt gratitude to the dedicated leaders of both towns, whose commitment and tireless work have been instrumental in this endeavor. Moreover, I commend the members of the Dudley Charlton Regional School Committee for their steadfast dedication to fulfilling the educational needs of students and families within the district, and while upholding the fiduciary responsibilities to the community of Charlton and Dudley. Thank you. As a reminder, without any additional weather-related or unforeseen closures of our schools, the last day of school is Thursday, June 13th, 2024. This is an early release day for all students. The remaining weeks of school tend to move quite quickly, and it is important to share additional days of significance, especially for our seniors. Sorry, Jamie.
I know, I'm very excited today.
Sophia's very excited, but yes. May 17th is the last full day for 2024 seniors with final exams, senior responsibilities, rehearsals, and events through the graduation on Sunday, June 2nd at the DCU Center at 1 p.m. School committee members will receive a personal invitation from the Shepherd Hill office, just so that you're aware, for that graduation event. The junior senior prom is Monday, May 20th at the DCU Center. The senior banquet is Thursday, May 30th at Holy Cross. And for non-seniors, DCRSD has an early release day, the last one of the year, Friday, May 24th, for all students. A very exciting time of the year. Our office has been coordinating with ERS, Educational Resource Strategies, to prepare for the context for the school committee sanctioned review of operations in the Dudley Charlton Regional School District. As a reminder, this is one of three critical assessments coming forward in the next 6 months for us. The 2-week intense review of DCRSD is planned to commence on Monday, May 13th, 2024. The context of the review is shaping up to include the following areas of operation. 1, human capital, more specifically teacher and paraprofessional compensation and benefits. 2, school funding, building capacity, utilization, and understanding support services and staffing allocations. 3, school design, more specifically class sizes, special education spending and services, multilingual spending and services, middle school and high school scheduling. It will include elementary as well. And time and attention for students, including MTSS structures within our district. And number 4, school support and accountability. District office spending breakdown and fragmented district office support and roles are going to be reviewed as well. So that is shaping up. We are planning a kickoff meeting on the 13th. I know that I've asked for 1 or 2 representatives from school committee to attend that as well, which would be fantastic.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yep.
Can the attendance be virtual into that meeting, or no?
They prefer, ERS was preferring an in-person meeting.
Okay.
Okay?
Yep.
School committee, and the next item is school committee agenda B on fees, so I'm not going to go over that until we get to that agenda item, and that concludes the superintendent's report this evening.
Perfect, thank you. Okay, yeah,
I apologize, can I just ask a question?
go ahead.
Back on the senior events, the junior senior prom is stated as Monday, May 20th at the DCU Center, but I think it's Saturday, the 18th.
Is it Saturday the 18th? Sorry.
A Monday
like-
prom would be crazy.
I was thinking that, I was like, that's the town meetings.
Maybe.
Well, that would work in finals week.
I mean,
Okay.
they are at school, but, you know, well, some of them.
I apologize for that error. So it's Saturday, May 18th at the DCU Center. Okay, thank you for that correction.
Good, thank you. Is there anyone for public comment? Sure, come on to the table. Just a reminder, you just need to say your name and your town.
Good for you.
Robin Watson, Dresser Hill Road. And I had a few questions about the cost of the Dudley Middle School roof and the fire and communications piece, because I've seen 3 different prices. one taken from your 2022 document on your website, which was 2.8 million. I'm rounding it down slightly. Then there's a capital plan, the numbers completely don't align. And then Lisa Berg's 3.067 million in the town. So what is the source of the truth? Where do we find the real number?
I don't have it in front of me, Madam Chair. I wasn't prepared to present on that.
Okay.
And I just wanted, just for a point of clarification, you're looking at the price of the roof as well as the total cost of the capital plan?
Yeah, so I'm looking at DMS roof and professional fees, school safety fire alarms at DMS, Dudley Elementary, Mason Road, cameras and radio, and an architectural review, which is $25,000 each at 3 of the schools.
Right, so for clarity, looking at the total bill
Yeah.
for what was approved in September 2022.
For what we're going to be billed now, because the work's done, right? So,
Not all the work is done, but yes, most of it are accounted for, yes.
okay.
So we will get that
So I'm
number
looking for the actual cost of what Dudley will be built.
We will have that number at our May 10th school, at the May 10th school committee meeting.
Okay.
But Madam Chair, I think I also have your email, so I'll email it to you as well.
My email?
Yeah.
Sure, okay. And the last question, and it probably pertains to that, was there a fixed price contract for all of this work, or is it time and materials?
Sure.
So each one of the projects were put out to bid with the specifications, which included labor and materials to do each one of those jobs. So then we have a contract for that amount. And the only way that contract would have changed is if there was a change order because they came across something during the project that they needed to change the scope of the work.
Okay, so it's basically cost of materials plus time and materials for the labor versus a fixed bid, I'm gonna do this for X amount of dollars, and oh geez, it's costing us more.
No,
Right, 'cause
there is a fixed bid based on specifications. So
Oh,
there's
okay.
specifications that include labor and materials.
Yep,
All the vendors out there have to bid on it. Then we take the lowest qualified bidder. They're awarded the contract. Then they begin work. And if there's something they come across that was unexpected, that wasn't in the specifications to begin with, the vendor and us have to agree on the change order that happens to that original contract price.
okay.
Okay.
Thank you. That's all.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else for public comment? No? Okay. Moving on, we're going to move on to new business. We have, for A, we have update fiscal year 2025.
Madam Chair and School Committee, do you mind? Okay, yeah. Madam Chair and School Committee, we do have an updated assessment sheet based off of the work we did, as I mentioned in my report. With the towns, this does not change the overall budget. We use the most favorable numbers for fiscal year '25, and it therefore does change the assessments. We as a district, and if you as a school committee, we are recommending that you do vote on these new assessment numbers based off of that work that we did with our respective communities and with the House numbers at this point in time, knowing that there could be some adjustments with the Senate budget as well as the final budget, but there is every year. There's a possibility of some adjustments there. But we feel very confident in working with our towns that we do have, as I said, a plan for FY25 going into town meetings. And therefore, I would respectfully request that the school committee does support a vote based off of this version 2, FY25 version 2 budget dated today, 24th of 2024 of April.
Okay, I would entertain a motion to accept a total budget for FY25 of $59,885,638, with the total assessment to Charlton being $18,585,969, and a total assessment to Dudley of $12,240,879.
So moved.
So moved by Kelly,
Second.
second by Jean. Okay, is there any discussion from our members? Okay. Okay. Seeing no discussion, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor? And it's unanimous. Great, thank you.
Thank you.
And you'll be able to give those?
We'll,
The assessment letters will go out tomorrow.
Okay, wonderful. I think Dudley has their meeting tomorrow. Was it tomorrow night or next Monday?
I'll
Yeah.
email them to them anyhow, but I'll send out the original.
Okay, perfect, that's great, thank you. Okay, we'll move on to B, the updated DCRSD fees, preschool athletic and Shepherd Hill parking.
Madam Chair, this is as I have in the past, for agenda items that I'm reporting out on, they do end up in the superintendent's report for presentation. So this is my presentation regarding item B, school committee agenda item B, updated DCRSD fees. As a result of Budget and Finance Subcommittee review of DCRSD fees set and voted by the school committee in November. You haven't set or voted yet, sorry. By the school committee in November, December, and January, and through school committee deliberations at the January 10th, 2024 regular meeting with the following reported in the approved minutes: pre-kindergarten tuition. Last updated in 2018, the subcommittee agrees to increase the fees by a possible $200, bringing the 2 half-days to a total of $1,200. Currently, it's $1,000 for the school year. And the 4 half-days, if students do enroll for 4 half-days, to a total of $2,400, which is currently $2,000. Athletic fees, the subcommittee discussed adjusting athletic fees by $50, increasing the total to $200 instead of the current $150. Also agreed upon was instituting a fee at the middle school level, a potential of $50 per sport, with a universal family cap of $650. Athletic fees were last increased in 2013. Shepherd Hill Regional High School student parking fees, again, I'm reading from the minutes of the January 10th meeting. The last time the parking fees were increased was 2018. The subcommittee is currently not in agreement about whether or not the parking fees should be changed, so further discussion is needed on that particular topic. With that said, it is my recommendation to you as the school committee that action be taken as follows. Increase the pre-kindergarten preschool fees as stated from $1,000 to $1,200 for 2 half-days for the school year, and from $2,000 to $2,400 for 4 half-days for the 2024-2025 school year. Number 2, I do recommend taking no action on athletic fees at this point in time at the middle or high school. And I also, number 3, recommend taking no action on Shepherd Hill student parking fees at this time. Again, school committee can vote these or change that at any time. This recommendation comes forward with the belief that the fiscal year 2025 budget is within reach through our 2 communities. The pre-kindergarten preschool fee increase is warranted and continues to fall within reasonableness for participation in said program for Dudley Charlton Regional School District.
Okay, thank you. Why don't we take these one at a time, and then we can just choose to vote or not to vote. Okay, so as far as I'd entertain for pre-kindergarten tuition, I'd entertain a motion to increase the fees by for 2 half-days for a total of $1,200 and 4 half-days for a total of $2,400 for the next school year. So moved. And second by Nicole. Okay, so starting discussion, does anyone have any discussion on that? Not really. Okay. All right, all those in favor? Opposed? And abstentions? Okay, so you have 6-1. Okay, and we'll move to athletic fees. Does anyone have a motion on athletic fees that they'd like to entertain at this point? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to the parking fees. Does anyone have any motions that they'd like to entertain about the parking fees at this time? No? Okay, all right, we're good. And we'll move on to C, the Student Achievement Report. Our Acting Assistant Superintendent and our DES Principal, Kelly True. And she had just passed out a new copy for you. A new copy, I think she had, it might be slightly different.
Slightly different.
Heavier.
One of them's a little bit. One's a little lighter. Look at the colored copy. That's the nicer one.
Ms. True, just, we'll work on the flow, but just tell me when to move forward with the
Okay.
slides, okay?
Sure. So this is, the Student Achievement Report this time around is going to be kind of a a 20,000-foot view of what's going on in the district for each grade level with MCAS from last year, but I did include the past 5 years projections in the data that you're going to be looking at tonight. And I tried to include, I know some people like to look at tables and like to look at numbers, and some people like to look at graphs. So I included both of those so that you can study whichever page you would like. For my purposes with you, I'm going to be talking from mostly the graphs because I think that's easier just to kind of visualize and to talk through. So if we look at first ELA, which is a few slides in, there you go. If you want to go to the next slide with the graphs on it, this gives you the 5-year data starting in 2017, 2018, and it goes into 18, 19. It leaves out 1920 because we didn't have an MCAS test in 1920 because that was from COVID. And then it picks back up 2021, 21, 22, and 22, 23. So that's the data essentially that you're looking at here. What I did for each category is just kind of looked at immediate impressions when looking at the different data and what it tells us. And so my immediate impressions from looking at this data is obviously it's really inconsistent over the 5-year period. We had COVID in there, and then we're trying to recover from having COVID in there. The scores range from high 30s to low 60s in any given year, with the exception of grade 4 and 18-19, which had 66% of students score proficient. So when we're looking at these numbers, this is the combined meeting and exceeding. So essentially, to become proficient at all in MCAS, this is the amount of students that we have at each grade level during each year. Almost all the grades spiked in 18-19, so that was before my time here. I'm not sure quite what we were doing in 18-19 right before COVID happened in ELA, but each grade level did seem to have a pretty big spike in that year, with the exceptions of grades 5 and 8. And then over the last 5 years, nearly half of our students were considered not to be proficient at every grade level.
Kelly, wasn't 18-19 where we were on the old generation of the test too?
Is that when it
Yeah.
switched over?
Yeah.
Oh,
So, yeah.
potentially, yeah.
So I think that's where.
That's a change in there?
That's the change in the dip.
Yeah. So that's, when I look at this data, this is what really strikes me, is that, we're hovering around, in some cases, the early 40s, sometimes even late 30s, if we look at the most recent year, the 22-23 data, we're looking at, mid 40s, some high 30s for proficiency of our students, which means that, we're looking at 60 to 70% of students who were not proficient on the MCAS test. Every grade level obviously dropped after COVID. That's expected. We do see an uptick at the elementary level where we kind of have some recovery there, but at the middle school levels, we do not. So those have remained in decline. I don't know if you want to ask, does anyone have questions on this set of data before we go on to the next set, or you want to just do it all?
Just do it all.
Just do it all? All right,
I don't know.
okay.
Or people can ask questions however you'd like.
If something stands out, just let me know, and we can talk about it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just to add, yes, in 2019, September 2019, so the year testing in 2020 was when they changed the achievement levels.
They changed it over, okay.
Yep.
Yep, that makes sense
But we
then.
didn't have testing in 2020 because it was COVID.
No, but the next round of testing was the new,
Yeah. And we went from, it was called like now we're in
Next
the
gen,
next
yeah.
generation of testing. So
Yeah.
it's a different type of test.
yeah. When we take a look at math, math is very similar. It also is inconsistent because obviously of COVID and trying to recover from coming back from COVID. But the scores were definitely lower. They ranged in the high 20s to low 60s in any given year, with most scores post-COVID in the range of 30%, which is, that's pretty low when you're looking at amount for proficiency. So again, nearly half our students were considered not to be proficient at every grade level. And based on the 22-23 results in general, 60% of students are not meeting with proficiency in math, with the exception of the current grade 5 students. They had done a little bit. They had done a little more. So, looking at this data, you have your COVID years and you can definitely look at a dip after that, but we want to see recovery. After a year out, 2 years out, 3 years out, you really want to start to see some good recovery in there. And it doesn't seem that we're making that big of an impact to recovery. It's definitely starting, and the math is starting to come back a little more than the ELA was when you're looking at it, but it's still not the leaps and bounds that you would want to see, particularly when you're thinking about Dudley, Charlton, the demographic here, where we're situated, where I like to call it our raw material of children comes from. You have kids coming in that have a lot of skills coming in, they have a lot of background, they have, a lot of support at home, and if we're looking at where we are, say, in relation to the state, we might not look too far off, but the state numbers include every district in the state. It includes Boston Public Schools, it includes New Bedford, Worcester, Springfield, it includes all of those different districts. So with our raw material that we have, we should be looking at scores, we should be reversed here and have 70% or more of our students meeting with proficiency rather than the other way around.
Can I just point out something like that I find fascinating? Like if you look at the grade 3, which I need my reading glasses, I'm sorry. You look at the grade 3 in 21-22 and you're at 39%, and then you travel those kids over to grade 4 and all of a sudden they're up at 59%. Like that's pretty darn impressive.
It is, and I'll tell you, one of the things that I can tell you about fourth grade is that with our schedules and the way that we do the time on learning for different subjects, fourth grade has a 90-minute block for math. They're the only grade that has a 90-minute block for math. So they have their hour-long block, and then they have an additional 30 minutes that they can do interventions, they can do small groups, they can do, they're getting more math in fourth grade than they are at any other level. And that's because with reading development, that takes, from K to 3, it takes 120 minutes of reading, and they get an hour for math. But when you move to fourth grade, it drops down to 90 minutes for reading. And it goes to 90 minutes for math.
Yeah.
So that extra time that you're taking away from ELA goes directly into math.
Yeah. Are both Dudley and Charlton doing the WIN blocks? And because I wonder how much of an impact that's making.
Yeah.
Because it seems like it is.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
sorry, continue.
Yeah. Okay. And then we look to science. Science was a little bit wonky, and I think I have some explanation there for that. But when we take a look at science, it was similar. We have, kind of up and down inconsistent achievement. The scores range from the mid-30s to the high 50s. Most scores, again, though, hover around that 40th percent of proficiency for students. With the exception of biology in the past school year. Now, I was talking to Principal Elwell about biology and physics because I was like, what happened here? It was, 3% in physics is a very small number, and it seems like an anomaly and an outlier there. So, something had to have happened. And he explained a little bit that they were trying to look at the different tracks for if freshmen should take physics or if they should take biology. So they mixed up a little bit how they were tracking the kids to when they were going to take either the physics test or the biology test. So they gave it in the earlier year, last year, which created them not having enough background in the physics to actually do as well on the test. So they're going to revert back to doing biology in grade 9 and probably physics in grade 10.
We just have to take it once.
Would that be in grade 10? Yeah. So they're going to track everybody for biology in grade 9, which will make a difference for that. But the data tells the same story in all 3 subjects. Essentially, we're hovering around like a 40% of our students being proficient in any of these content areas. For the district subgroups, we have 3 different subgroups. We have low income, we have our multilingual students, and we have our special ed students. For this data, I gave you the data for the past 5 years, but I did not graph the data for the past 5 years. I was starting to run out of time a little bit, and I think that The most recent data for our subgroups is what we want to focus on for right now, which when you look at this data, what you really want to look at is how do our subgroups compare to what all students are doing. So you have the all students measurement at the bottom of the graph, and then we have our low income students, our multilingual learners, and our special education students. And so we try to look at the discrepancy between what all students are proficient, what kind of proficiency they have against what our other subgroups are doing. So my immediate impressions when looking at this, all the subgroups consistently perform below the aggregate, which is the all students at every grade level. The low income students perform more closely to what all students do, so I think that we're making some progress there, and we might just need some different supports or some different ways to identify our low income students, some different measures to work on with them, but I think that we can make some progress there. With the exception of grade 3, our students with disabilities perform significantly lower than the aggregate at every grade level, with the largest discrepancy in grade 4. But I also think to be noted, even though grade 4 has the largest, is that not? Oh, this is in ELA, I'm sorry. I have two. Grade 4 is also the largest in math, but well, we'll get to that when I get to it, sorry. With the exception of grade 3, and again, I feel like grade 3 is an outlier here because it has the biggest numbers. 24% of the students with disability were meeting with proficiency in grade 3 on average, and then it was less than 10% in all the other grade levels with the exceptions of grade 5, which was 13, and grade 10, which was 16. So there's, the difference between what all students are doing and our special education students, and even mostly our multilingual learners, is a pretty big discrepancy. And so we really need to look at what are we doing with these populations, what kind of supports do we have in place, what does our programming look like in these areas so that we can improve that significantly. You'll notice that the multilingual learners drop off after 3rd and 4th grade. And that could be for a variety of reasons. It could be transients, but it's most likely that these students are in our L program from kindergarten all the way through, and that their access scores kind of graduate them from our EL program, and then they're formally limited English proficient, and they go back into the regular classroom. They don't receive L services anymore. So that could be a reason for that drop off, which would be great news because that means that they're doing well on their access test and that they don't require those services anymore. So that's why you only have the multilingual learners on the 3rd and 4th grade scale. In math, it's a very similar situation, but you can see again in 4th grade, which is the red, they did really well. Low income, multilingual learners, all students, across the board, they were really strong with math. But when you're looking at our other subgroups, again, the low income scores more closely to the all students, but their percentages of proficiency are still pretty low. Students with disabilities perform significantly lower again at every grade level. The largest discrepancy was in grade 4, which was 59% of all students were meeting expectations, while only 17% of special education students were. But even though they have the highest discrepancy, it also has the highest proficiency rate at 17%. So, you can look at that two ways, like only 17% of our special ed students were meeting with proficiency, but 17% of special ed students, that's the highest of all the grades that's meeting with proficiency in math. Does that make sense? The lowest was our 8th grade, whose students with disabilities proficiency rate was 4%. Then we go on to Shepherd Hill Advanced Placement in 22-23 and retention in 23-24. So there's decreased enrollment in AP classes over a 5-year span, and the data is there that you can see. It pretty consistently has gone down. It had a little bit of an uptick in 2021 and then continued to go down again. There was a 5% reduction in the amount of qualifying scores. The qualifying scores are a 3+. 64% of students taking AP classes are considered proficient, which is a pretty strong number, but about a third of the students are not meeting a qualified score. The scores have stayed pretty consistent, hovering in the 60% range for qualifying scores, so at least over the last 5 years, they've been kind of in the same place for that amount of time. And then when we look at the retention or loss of credits, grade 9 is the highest for that. And I know that Shepherd Hill and the middle schools have had some challenges with transitioning students into high school, and that seems to be kind of a bump for just, I don't know if it's an expectations change, like we could really drill down into that data and kind of look at where are the struggles, what are the classes, and who are the students, and dig a lot deeper into that. I don't know if Principal Elwell has any other insight into that, but I know that it is a tough transition for a lot of students going from 8th grade and a middle school mentality into a high school and a high school mentality, especially if the expectations do change. So I'm wondering, how we can kind of attack that transition piece with more vertical alignment, or how we can look at that together, but that's definitely been a challenge. And you can see that.
Was there a particular area that they were failing in more than others?
Course-wise?
Yeah.
That, I don't have that data, so
Okay.
I'm not sure about that. And I'm sure we could figure that out by digging
Yeah.
deeper into it, but I didn't go that deep in my analysis.
Okay, and I guess my other question is that like 29, for the 9th graders, is it 29 individual students or is it 29 classes?
I believe it's 29 individual students.
That could have done one or more classes
Yeah.
failed? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Follow on that one. If it's 29 students, how many total freshmen took AP classes? Meaning, if there were 100, 29 failed, so it was 71% passed. Do we have that number?
Oh, this is not connected.
No, they're not, sorry, no, they're not.
connected to
They're not
APs.
connected. This
They're
is just
saying
showing two
overall.
different pieces of data.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Wow.
Yep.
Okay, glad I asked.
Yeah.
Sorry, no.
Oh,
29 of the total student body of 9th grade.
Yeah.
failed a class, non-AP.
Correct, it didn't
Yes.
matter what class
Yeah.
it was.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Fine. So, that's
Let
all.
me just rephrase that. 29 students didn't earn enough credits freshman year to advance to
Sophomore year.
Which is, I'm gonna guess and say roughly 10, 12%. Wow.
Yeah, that's a lot. Okay.
So this, once I look at all the data and see kind of where we stand, I start to think about